Sounds like we're good to go.
Good to go.
All right. And we have everyone here. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today for the Mayor's Task Force on Infrastructure meeting for Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. And I'd like to begin in a good way by acknowledging with gratitude that we live and work on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish, whose peoples have been stewards of these lands and waters surrounding Niklelahuam, Bowen Island. First item on the agenda. Well, before approval of the agenda, we do have a new face joining us here on the call today. So I'd like to welcome Sarah Kasari, our new manager of infrastructure. And you'll meet the other folks as we go along, Sarah. But Sarah just joined us not too long ago. Has it been a month yet?
It is yeah. I started September 8th.
September 8th. Okay, right on.
Yes.
Do you want to say hi to everybody and maybe just
Yeah.
give a short little elevator pitch on your background and what brought you to the municipality?
Of course. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Kosari. I'm a civil engineer by trade, and I did my master's degree at UBC, again in civil engineering with a specialization in engineering management. Then I started working in various consulting companies, and then I landed the senior management job with the city of Burnaby, doing and delivering capital projects for lands and facility, for recreation, parks, and culture teams. Now I'm here with the Bowen Island municipality.
Right on. Thanks, Sarah. That's great.
Problem. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Don. I think we just saw you in a pub.
Oh, so
Yeah.
how do I join you in that matrix there? As I'm moving, can you see me doing that?
No, I don't see you doing anything.
So I don't know how to add myself to the.
You're visible, Don, in the
Oh,
Yeah,
my screen, so we can see you.
yeah, I can see you,
okay.
Don. Yeah.
All right. Not that I see, but whatever.
Okay, moving on to approval of the agenda 1.1. I'll just look to our Deputy Corporate Officer for the addition of any late items here today.
I do not have any late items.
Okay, with that, I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda for our October 21st meeting. Moved by
I'll
Councillor
move it.
Blake, seconded by Michael. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 That carries unanimously. Adoption of the minutes at 2.1. Any changes, additions, amendments to the minutes around the table? Not seeing any. I'll look for a motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Wake. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries unanimously. Moving on to public comments. Stephanie, public comments here today? Not seeing any. So we'll move right into updates. 4.1, we have Patrick Graham, Director of Engineering, with a presentation on infrastructure update.
Hey, hi, everybody. It's been a while since we've had one of those meetings. So I've put a bit of a presentation together to highlight what's gone on and what's happening with our major infrastructure projects, some operational updates, and some comments on what we've got planned for the coming year. I noticed that there's another item on the agenda for the coming year plan, so we could leave that till then, or I could go through it as part of this presentation, either way. So I'll share my screen.
Mayor, are we asking the presentation or after presentation or whole question or what?
Yeah, I would hold questions until the end. So let's hear the presentation and then we'll do questions at the end.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's change screens. All right, I'll just go through it this way. So we've got a number of capital projects that are still ongoing. We'll talk about this more in the closed, the Cove Bay Water Treatment Plant, just to provide, a quick update for the open session. There's ongoing issues with the purifics filtration equipment. Staff are doing everything they can to deliver the highest quality water possible to the Cove Bay system, despite the equipment not really functioning and performing optimally. And staff are coordinating with WSP and Purifics, exploring potential solutions to optimize the performance. And we'll get into more of that later. The major project that has been mostly completed this year was the water mains replacement of most of the water distribution system in Blue Water Park, and then rebuilding and repaving all of the roads that were disturbed by the water main construction. The new well pumps and all the electrical equipment has been installed in the Bowen Bay wells. The system to deliver shared water to all three hasn't been commissioned yet. There's just a couple of issues that are being resolved, and we're getting close to having that complete. There's a need to install some new radio equipment to enable the communication that we need between the well sheds. But in the next month or so, we should have that system commissioned and operating and put into service. And that will be an exciting milestone for everyone on the west side. The installation of despite the issues we're having with the Cove Bay Water Treatment Plant, we're proceeding with the installation of the water main connecting the Cove Bay and Eagle Cliff water systems. The project has started construction in September, and be contracting the same contractor that completed the Blue Water installations. They've completed the water main from the south end tie-in point near Jason Road up to Creek Road. So they're making fairly rapid progress. They expect to be complete the water main by March. And then the culvert installations will follow in April to May. Hopefully conditions will be dry enough. There's a couple of pretty tricky culvert installations that really need to be done in dry weather. So that will be something that is really important for our asset management as well, getting these failing culverts replaced. We have a water main that's really the one that's shown there crossing Terminal Creek at the Carter Road Bridge is really at risk of dramatic failure. It's already leaking and discharging chlorinated water into Terminal Creek. We have a plan and a design for replacing that main, attaching a new main to the bridge. Due to the lead time on delivery of the pipe that's been specified, construction is planned for February of 2026. And it shouldn't take much more than a month to get that project completed. The Cross Island multi-use path, earlier in 2025, we completed a 300-meter extension past Artisan Lane. That's been put into service. The next proposed phase is to start from Grafton Lake and work back towards the section that's already been built. The reason for that is that the section extending past the current endpoint is very difficult and costly due to the need to stay away from the Terminal Creek Ravine. So there's an estimated cost of the next phase is approximately 2 million from Forster Lane to about 100 meters north of Cates Hill Road. There's 1.2 million in confirmed grant funding, and there's another 325,000 that's available from TransLink through their allocated funding program. And we need to apply for, we intend to apply for that before the end of October. That'll be brought forward at the next council meeting on October 27th. And there is a municipal contribution of 442,000 required for that project. So council approval is required. The Snug Cove sewer outfall design's been completed, but permitting is underway and turning out to be a long process, which makes the time frame for construction uncertain and really dependent on the time frame for permitting. The permit for Crown Land tenure has been prioritized, but it will still take 6 months to a year to obtain, is what we're told. Archaeological assessment and permitting is underway. Hopefully that won't lead to delays. We've requested RFPs, or we've done an RFP to select consultants that have been approved by the Squamish Nation, and we'll get those back in early November. We do have to register as part of our permit to discharge under the from the Ministry of Environment. They're requiring registration under the municipal wastewater regulation, and there's some gaps in our documentation that we need to fill, and we're working on that. That's all going along in parallel with the Crown Land tenure permit. Not a lot of updates on the service yard. It remains, a priority. It's a facility that we have that's in very poor condition and undersized for operational needs. There was some follow-up with a design build contractor. It's not a project that sole source to a particular contractor can be justified. It's likely that design build is a suitable delivery approach. We'll need an RFP to hire the required contractor. And the next step may be to hire an owner's representative. That's an approach that other municipalities have taken, and that may help us to advance this project. A few updates on asset management. We have a mostly complete inventory for our assets, but it's still some work to be done to complete that. There's been condition assessments completed for some asset categories, culverts, sanitary manholes, roads, which was done by staff, although there's a request for proposals that's in progress now to hire a specialized firm to do a more detailed road condition assessment for us. And we have just age-based condition ratings on our water mains. There'll be condition assessments completed also for our buildings, and we'll develop a building condition index for each. And there's a consultant is being hired. RFP's been closed, and we've selected somebody for the inflow and infiltration reduction program development. And this will include some condition assessment on the sanitary collection system. We have replacement cost estimates, again, for some asset categories, water mains, culverts, and roads. We'll have underway soon the development of a comprehensive valuation plan for asset replacement costs by category for the remaining asset categories. Asset report cards have been developed for some assets. culverts, water mains, and roads. We presented those at the last meeting we had with this group. And we'll be developing similar asset report cards for other categories. Plans are underway for implementation of a maintenance management software, which will link with our asset management software and help us to track service requests and work orders and to link those with the appropriate assets where the work is being done. I should point out that we're still developing this program, but we're also moving forward on replacing some of the poorest condition assets in our inventory. Most of the replacements this year, which is what we've discussed already, were in the Blue Water Park water distribution system and road network, as well as 13 poor condition and failing culverts in Blue Water. We'll be assessing Bowen Island according to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities asset management readiness scale. And we'll also be developing asset management plans for the major facilities that have recently been completed, the community center and the fire hall. Sarah is going to be leading a lot of these efforts related to asset management. And now that she's joined us, we'll be making better progress, I think, and that will be helpful for our operations. Some operational updates. Another initiative that's underway and will be ongoing for the next couple of years is the development of standard operating procedures for public works. All of the standard procedures that we undertake in public works will have a standard operating procedure. A few highlights of the roads and parks operations from the past few months. Frequent road repairs, the brushing and ditching and drainage improvements that are ongoing, parks, trails, repairs and improvements, repairing stairs, a number of stairs, including the stairs at Kate's Bay Beach and down to the shore from Miller's Landing, have been repaired recently. We removed a number of unstable trees and stabilized rock slopes that we were concerned about along Eagle Cliff Road. That's the location of the photo there near Upland Trail. Maintenance of the floats at Snug Cove Wharf. Floats were taking on water and they also needed to be scraped clean. That was done recently. It was the rebuilding and regrading of Beach Drive, which is an ongoing maintenance issue for us. We rehabilitated a very problematic section of White Sails Drive that had more or less completely failed, and it was essentially an emergency repair was needed for a section of roadway. Coordinated paving of the community center parking lot and sidewalk, which is a nice addition. Operational updates from the utility side. Oops, sorry about that. There was a major leak that caused a lot of problems in the King Edward Bay system. It was discovered and repaired. We actually had to fire up the Bowen Bay wells and run them into the King Edward Bay tank to keep up with demand when that occurred, even though the system hadn't been fully completed and commissioned. We're always getting leaks in service lines, pump lines, valves, and water mains, so the crew spend a lot of time detecting and repairing those leaks. We discovered some lead in some water samples, determined that was due to old water meters, which we've replaced. So on the next round of water meter reading, we'll be recording the model numbers and making sure that similar old meters are also replaced. The operations staff, the utilities crew provided a lot of the inspection and oversight for the west side water system improvements that were completed this year. They spend a lot of time dealing with the ongoing troubleshooting with the Cove Bay water treatment plant. We managed to get the gravity low flow line that was installed at the Grafton Lake Dam. Managed to get that working and provide a pipe from the downstream side of the dam that the fire department can use to access lake water when they need it. That will hopefully enable us to not have to use the pump that runs continuously in the summertime to make sure that we're meeting our low flow discharge obligations. And then this is ongoing, is the operational support for commissioning of the new Bowen Bay wells and the interconnected system. This is another item of the agenda, but maybe we'll just run through it here. Looking at our capital plan for 2026, I've labeled it work plan for next year, but that's essentially what we're talking about. So it is, a high priority to get the Cove Bay water treatment plant working, and that's remains on our work plan list of priorities. We'll complete the water main connecting the Eagle Cliff and Cove Bay water systems. We'll replace 8 poor condition and failed culverts along that alignment. Replace the Snug Cove sewer outfall, depending on permitting and how that goes. So that may need to be extended into 2027. Extend the multi-use path to Grafton Lake, excluding the difficult high-cost section that I mentioned earlier that would be deferred to a future phase. Upgrading the Hood Point water treatment plant. We've recently received a consultant report recommending complete replacement of that plant. The problems with the water in Hood Point is the elevated disinfection byproducts, trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids, and some additional filtration is needed to achieve that. Currently working with the consultant to see whether there might be something more along the lines of a retrofit solution. As they estimated, it would be a $2 to $2.5 million project to replace the treatment plant. So depending on how that develops into a preferred solution, that may need to extend into 2027 as well. There's 5 poor condition piles on the Snug Cove Wharf that we had assessed about a year ago that need to be replaced. And still looking at the possibility of replacing the float at Mount Gardner Dock next year, although that may be deferred to 2027 as well. Implementation of the inflow and infiltration reduction program. The program needs to be developed, and then we'll have a better idea what the work required to actually implement those improvements consists of, and what the time frame for that will be. We have a number of high-risk sections of road that need to be addressed. As I mentioned, we're still working on developing a long-range plan that's based on detailed condition assessments. But there's some sections of road on Jason Road, Lower Adams Road, and Cowan's Road that are getting to the point where they could be safety issues and need to be addressed as part of our annual road rehabilitation program. We have a lot of high-risk culverts on the island. There's one in particular that a lot of the culvert budget is taken up by the Eagle Cliff Road culverts that I mentioned. There's another high-risk culvert where the erosion is getting very close to the embankment of Grafton Road. That's at Gates Hill Road that we plan to replace. There's poor condition pressure reducing valves in need of repair and replacement. There's one in the Eagle Cliff system, and there's one at the one at Miller Road and Trunk Road, and there's one at Miller Road and Melmore Road that are all in need of attention. There's some high-risk slopes that we intend to stabilize. There's a location along Grafton Road just past Artisan, and there's we've dealt with a lot of the high-risk slopes along Taylor Road, but there's still a remaining phase to be done up there. Upgrading the pavement markings and signage in Snug Cove. We've got a consultant working on completing a plan for how those pavement markings may be revised and signage. And once that's complete, we'll move into implementation. The intention would be to use the inlaid thermoplastics, which is a much longer lasting pavement marking, to avoid having to redo it every year. We're looking at extending the ferry queuing lanes past the end of the line on Grafton Road. We're going to be getting some design and survey for that very soon, and hopefully that will help resolve some of the issues that we see up at that location and on busy ferry sailings. I've said advance the planning and design for upgrading the Public Works Service Yard. It's the possibility of moving into construction this year is probably unlikely, but we need to advance that project. And there's a number of other future capital projects that we would advance planning and design for, as well as advancing our asset management planning and advancing infrastructure planning. And there's a number of initiatives under that Sarah is going to be leading the planning for, developing a drinking water master plan and source water protection plan, developing a liquid waste management plan, and a drainage master plan. So that's a summary of the major things that we're looking at for the capital plan for 2026. A few updates on our public works staff contingent. You've been introduced to Sarah. She'll have a lot of responsibilities relating to asset management, capital projects, and infrastructure planning. We also added a new utility operator, Andre Smedek, and he assists the treatment plant operator and utilities crew. That's a welcome addition given the 7 different water systems plus the sewer system that crew has to manage. Aaron Bradley was added on the Parks and Roads crew in the summer. There's a current member of our Parks and Roads crew who's currently the lead hand is on long-term disability leave. And an additional roads and parks crew position is being requested in the 2026 budget. So I've gone through quite a few updates there. If you've got some questions, we can certainly deal with those.
Sorry, just let me take myself off mute here. Any questions from the committee? If you could use the raised hand function in Zoom, that would be great. Oh, my head's cutting off here. Weird.
Camera angle.
Yeah, it's the sun with the background. Any questions? Don, did you have questions?
Well, I do, but if we're gonna have a long meeting, I can defer them. They were just curious. Well, first question was, I guess to Steph, are there any other members of the public on this Zoom meeting?
I do not see any.
Hmm.
Are you expecting some?
It's Bowen Island, so you know,
We're
can't
on
have,
YouTube, but we don't have anyone visiting.
yeah, okay. No, I was just curious. Maybe just curious. Um, Is anybody else have some questions? I don't want to hog the 5 minutes that I might have here or whatever, but anyhow, the quite one question I had, Patrick, was there any extra cost there was a little bit of a delay in adding Eagle Cliff onto the water system. Were there any extra costs from the contractor there, or is that
They've honored their tender prices for most of the contract. They do have some extra costs relating to the new pressure reducing valve chamber that's being added. They were ordering a lot of those components from the US, and so there's approximately 30,000 extra cost relating to that chamber.
Hmm.
And then there's a few design changes that we're making relating to the culverts. We're hoping that that would not result in much additional cost.
right? Thank you. Um, do we have a total cost, I ballpark cost for the Cross Island Trail, like order of magnitude?
For the whole thing,
Yeah, from east to west. Yeah.
it's something like a $10 million
Okay.
project to finish that, like order of magnitude.
The asset management readiness. What does that mean? Asset management readiness card. Was it readiness card or just
The readiness scale, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has a process that looks at um, where a municipality is uh, relating to its asset management and uh, provides some guidance on, what steps should be taken to close the gaps.
so is
It's
it
just
kind
a
of
sort of,
like a green, amber, red? Like they
um,
flag it flags you if you're
yeah, it's just
It's,
sort
it's
of a
very
rating.
scale of 1 to 5.
1 to 5. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
One being not so good and 5 being amazing.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you. And appreciate the work you're doing on the road culverts and ditching and whatnot. And just a question, I've asked this before, but just the where the roads aren't where you're crossing private property and it hasn't been resolved legally. Um, are you running into any issues there where you're going onto private property to make the road safer or vice versa or any?
Um, I mean, there's certainly quite a few roads that aren't within the road right of way that
Yeah,
stray onto private property.
yeah,
And we would like to resolve those eventually.
right,
We have long stretches of road. There's a big stretch of Mount Gardner Road that runs through um, Crippen Park
right.
that there's no right of way for.
Yeah.
And then further down Mount Gardner Road, the whole stretch, almost the whole stretch out to the dock, doesn't have a right of way either. So
So
um,
thinking out loud here, will that be something that's captured in the asset, what was it called? The asset management readiness scale? That that kind of,
um, that's more looking at the management of the assets themselves. I'm not sure if it gets into
if the
um,
asset's not on your own property.
questions like
Uh,
that.
Okay,
That's more of a geospatial issue.
okay,
It's, the asset um, report cards are, does this pavement have potholes?
right,
Is the edge falling apart? Are there ruts in it? Are there bumps in it? That's the kind of stuff it gets into.
right.
These questions of geospatial issues would not be covered by that. I mean, it is an issue, but it's one that's out there that
Okay.
would be resolved outside of the asset management program. And in a lot of cases, I think uh, we suffer more of the vice versa. So there's a lot of encroachments too, where
Okay.
private citizens have placed their own structures within the road right away. So
Yeah,
that also is an issue. There are many easily citable examples where somebody's built a set of stairs or put a shed where they store their garbage can
yeah.
or put in a rock wall to facilitate extra parking. So there's a lot of that too.
So there's that just kind of an ongoing dialogue, one might say.
Yeah,
Right?
it more falls in the realm of bylaw
Yeah,
enforcement
yeah.
than it would in an asset management program.
Okay, two more questions. The drainage master plan, I think when I was speaking a couple years ago when the committee was struck, I remember talking to Bob Turner, and one of the things he was quite um, animated, excited about was what happens to the runoff as it leaves the island. Hopefully that gets incorporated, encapsulated in the drainage master plan. So, whether that involves working with the conservancy or people, I think there'd be a great groundswell of public support for embedding sustainable and nature-based solutions to the master. Anyhow, that's just obviously. And the last question I have is the new guy, Andre Smidek, is it?
SMEDEC, yeah,
Smidek?
I think so.
So where's he hailing from? Like what's his background?
Um,
I mean,
that's a
you've
good
gone through it,
question.
but I'm just curious because it sounds like you found a good person to.
Yeah, he's had a lot of municipal experience. He
Oh,
didn't
good.
have he didn't have a ton of utility, like specifically relating to water systems.
Hmm.
But from what I understand, from he's been helping out our treatment plant operator, Dewey, quite a lot.
Hmm.
And he was really struggling before Andre joined us. And my understanding from Dewey is that he learns very quickly
Huh,
and he can, someone that he can trust.
great.
Yeah,
Good.
I think he's originally from the Czech Republic, but
Huh.
I'm not sure on that. And I think he's also done a stint up north, like me. So obviously a resourceful person and doing quite well. Had good feedback, and maybe if the opportunity arises, we can introduce you to him one day, and you can meet him.
Yeah, I'd be interested. More Canadians should do stints up north. I Anyhow, last thing, the photograph you used for the cove, the introductory photograph, I think is quite compelling with looks like they're just uncrating some tubes and stuff, and there's pipes, and I think it's very, very telling of the story related to,
Yeah.
to the treatment plant. Anyways, I've said my piece. Apologize for taking so much time, Mr. Mayor, and that's it.
Thanks, Don.
Muting.
And over to you, Councillor Wake.
Thank you. Couple of things. That's really concerning about the timeline for the permitting for the outfall. And it's a little surprising that they've prioritized it, and it's still going to take 6 months to a year. I mean, do we have is there anybody we can talk to about that? And I guess my other concern with that is, are we at risk of exceeding our limits and getting into trouble that way?
Well,
Sorry, I'll just take the first part of that, Patrick, and then maybe you can take the
sure.
second part with the prioritization. So, if you'll recall, Councillor Wake, I raised this issue directly with the minister at UBCM And then also with the MLA. So even with that level of lobbying, I think 6 months is expected as some sort of a victory for us. The fact is there's a really big backlog across the province, and it's not just limited to Crown land tenure permits. It extends to archaeological permits and a variety of permits. It's a huge roadblock to getting housing and infrastructure completed, and I think it's a widely acknowledged issue in the province. So unfortunately, I think that's probably the best we can do. And yes, not impressive, but I guess we're lucky. So we'll take a small win where we can get it.
Okay.
Okay. And in terms of the yeah, we're not in compliance with our permit to discharge currently, which shows a discharge location that's out near Dorman Point, and it's currently discharging further in Snug Cove. And the Ministry of Environment's aware of that. You know, they know that we're moving this as quickly as we can, and that there's forces beyond our control that are forcing the timeline to be so much longer than we had hoped.
Okay, thank you. And another question about the condition assessments. Sounds like there's quite a bit to do there. Do you have a timeline for when you might get through those?
I'm just going to pull up our
Maybe
work
this might be a
plan.
good one for our manager of infrastructure to respond to, since this will be largely a task that she'll be focused on. Do you want to take a stab at that one, Sarah?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, you're right, counselor. This is a quite a big list because it's not just the roads. We are looking at all the assets in the municipality. I even talked to the manager of parks. We are looking at parks, community center, water, the fire hall, everything. So I'm planning for it. The first thing is that I need to submit the budget request, and we have to have the budget for them. We should know where those are coming from, and then the next step would be hiring consultants, and then with the consultants and hiring them, you know better than me that right now we have to just look at the assets one by one. I can provide you with more information for the next meeting, but at this stage, I'm planning. I'm submitting the budget request to first know where the budget of doing all these are coming from. Then the next step would be more getting into the details of timelines. But we do
Okay.
have a high level plan. Again, it's not set because I need to figure out how we can pay for these.
Okay, thank you. And one last thing on the work shard and the possibility of hiring a consultant to do the design, build, tender, and process. What did we do with the fire hall on that front? Can we sort of repeat that process?
With the fire hall, there was an agreement between BIM staff and a particular design build contractor that they worked with directly. It's not an approach that's supported for this project, doing a sole source approach like that. So there's a little more process involved in terms of getting the procurement documents and working through a competitive process. But that's what's required to be in alignment with our own procurement policies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wake. Over to you, Michael.
Great. Thank you for the presentation, Patrick. And maybe I'll start where Councillor Wake left off. With regards to the service yard, I agree that if you're looking at a DB procurement, you'll likely have to go out and do a quals-based selection to get an owner's engineer or project manager. My question related to that is the current consultant or the previous consultant you had dealing with it, are they completely off contract now, and that is something that they cannot look at or provide a proposal for under their current agreement, just to save some procurement time, as well as they're really knowledgeable about the site?
We could definitely approach them if they have those capabilities, which I believe they do. Their contract and their design work goes back a couple of years now, so we don't have any active contract in place with them. I'm not sure whether there would be an advantage to working with them directly rather than doing an RFP of some sort.
Yeah. If their contract's already passed, then I don't see necessarily a timing advantage. But thank you for answering that one.
I think it's important for me to just put some context around this. Is historically, as an organization matures, its practices also mature. So in the past, there was this move to do a lot of sole source work. It's not considered best practice, though, in terms of procuring this work. It can lead to a bunch of issues. And I believe the vendor equipment for Cove Bay was sole sourced. So it's always good. And I don't think that resulted in a positive outcome. So I think the shift needs to be here, that we follow the practices that are pretty prevalent and recommended. And, it's been cited when they used to have a auditor for local government in the past, that these are the ways you procure these types of projects. So my understanding is that we use a contractor that we're comfortable with. We got some maybe up to 50% preliminary design concepts. I'm sure that material, since we own it, can be repurposed or used as the basis for the next phase of procurement, but really should be done through a competitive process, especially when you're looking at such large amount tenders of $4 million, to make sure we're getting the best value. So those past people who worked on that, the people who build the fire hall, they could work on this project, but they would have to submit a proposal and bid for it accordingly against other competitors. So that's kind of what we're trying to instill. And down the line, we're going to encapsulate this more with a revision to our purchasing and procurement policy, but it's an important part of the word. And again, I'll invite Sarah, manager of infrastructure, who has experience working on these large facilities. We have a pretty experienced person from Burnaby who's operated under that regime where you have competitive bids. You did that. And similarly with my experience with the Seashell Public Works Yard, we follow the same process. It's actual documents of CCDC 14, design build, contract specifications. So that's what we're doing here. We're just, I think it's important that when you get new people in an organization with a bunch of experience and there's an opportunity to revisit something and do it correctly, I think we should take that, because I think a lesson learned from the Cove Bay situation is that we should always take time for sober reflection before we get into something too deep. And so that's kind of the process we're using here. Hopefully that explanation explains things more, Michael. But
I appreciate that.
To add any more context, she'll be leading this process moving forward. Sarah?
Yeah, of course. I completely agree with Kieran. I myself delivered and led multiple capital projects under progressive design build model. And progressive design, I personally prefer progressive design build model because the owners usually have more flexibility there in terms of the design, and design build are not my favorite, but again we can discuss about the model and what would make more sense for Boyne Island. But 100% in terms of having, you know, competitive progress and processes for these type of projects, it's very beneficial for the municipality. We can, these days, developers and many contractors, they are out of jobs, they don't have much to be, you know, busy with. We can take advantage of a very slow market and get good contractors on the island to work on that, on the project. Again, what I prefer is a progressive design build where we have a lot of control over the design, and also, you know, having a good eye on both designers and the contractor and owner's rep. To be honest, one thing that all the municipalities are struggling with is strong project managers on their side managing even the owner's rep, because they are not they don't own the project, so they won't be as passionate as the staff inside the municipalities. So I always advocate to have strong project managers within the municipalities, plus having a good owners engineers, and having a competitive process to choose. And yeah, I agree 100%. Is just, it's, and we can for sure use the documents that we produced and developed previously. We are not gonna just start from the scratch and reinvent the whole wheel. We will use all those documentation. They are not going to be wasted. But again, my recommendation is to go through the competitive process as well.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. And I do agree, you know, having rigorous on the procurement side is key to making sure that these projects are getting done correctly. Just didn't know whether or not the existing consultant was still on contract. On the Cove Bay, just a couple more questions on the Cove Bay water treatment plant, and I get, you know, please let me know if we discuss this further in the closed session. But in terms of it not functioning optimally, can you give us like a high level? Is it quantity production of, or is it you know, quality, or a bit of both?
A bit of both, Michael. The quantity of the water that is being produced is not meeting the requirement, especially when during the summertime, and also a little bit of a problem with the quality.
Okay, thanks. And I guess the last question here, with the Carter Road Bridge water main replacement, if that construction isn't planned until February, are there any kind of mitigation measures being taken and taken into account over the winter time to just make sure that doesn't break?
This is for Patrick.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. We've patched up the leak as best we could. But I think that the only thing we can really do until replacing that main is to keep an eye out for major risk factors, and that would be things like, you know, big trees or tree limbs coming down the creek that could potentially take out that water main. That's, I don't know if you recall the picture. It's partially encased in concrete, but it's essentially in a weir in the creek. And it's not it's not a situation we're comfortable with, which is why we want to fix it as soon as possible. We did look at potentially changing the type of pipe that the designers recommended, and it wasn't appropriate for the
Okay.
situation.
That was my next question because it sounded like it was pipe supply that was causing the delay, and if there was
Yeah,
any additional options to be looked at there. No, thanks very much.
thanks.
Thank you, Michael. And over to you, Lindsay.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks, Patrick, for the detailed presentation. Just one question for me. Not sure if it'll go to you, Patrick, or Sarah, or even you, Kieran, but I was curious what procedure we have for prioritizing these large capital projects, and essentially how we're using that. I've got my own thoughts on, an ideal way to prioritize these given various risks and costs, etc. But I was just curious what we're doing right now when we're planning out this year's, next year's, and future jobs.
Yeah, I guess we look at risks and costs and what the needs are of the community. We have we're going to be having a more rigorous process as part of our asset management plans. But for example, if we look at roads and culverts, we want to get to a point where that's based on all based on quantitative data, condition, and what the needs of the community are. And currently, we're doing that based on our own knowledge as staff, talking with our operations staff about, where they see most problems. They know a lot of that infrastructure the best. And then in terms of the major capital projects, sometimes it's driven by a crisis that's occurred, like the Blue Water water project would probably fall into that category. When people don't have enough water, it's a crisis and needs to be addressed. The service yard is falling apart. We don't have a detailed condition assessment on the facility, but we don't need that to see what the staff are dealing with and to know that the operational spaces are not meeting what they need. We just have to talk to them. So we look at levels of service, risks, and costs mainly. I don't know if Kern or Sarah has anything to add.
I'll let Sarah have a stab at this one. I think more Patrick's got it right. We're kind of in a reactive mode. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I mean, that's where we're at, and that's why we're spending money on things like a road condition assessment, a drainage master plan, a water master plan. Like, these are all foundational engineering planning documents that have not been in place but need to be in place for us to be able to drive the prioritization of these projects and the grant fundings we request. And until those are done, we're basically doing a process that Patrick outlined, is where the community addresses a need or it's a crisis, or sometimes it could be as simple as the province has put out a grant funding opportunity, and because we're cash strapped and cash hungry, we'll go for a grant and we'll apply for it and we'll get something addressed through grants. So really, we're trying to move from a reactive approach to more of a proactive approach, and that's something councils embraced in their strategic plan. And also the community through the budget survey has flagged as a key issue for them. The number one issue of concern actually out of the budget survey was infrastructure and asset management. So in order to get fully to a point of prioritization, we need to have these foundational plans in place, and that's going to be the focus of the upcoming year. I don't know if there's any more you could add to that, Sarah, but I think that about captures it. So
Yeah, actually, I started like a month ago, so I I don't have, to be honest, I don't know like how these projects created and how are assigned. But as Karen mentioned, we need to have a good asset management plan so we can have a list of our priorities for future years. So this is a work in progress. Hopefully next year we are in a better place in terms of the planning and having our 5-year capital projects plan. But yeah.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Thanks for that. It sounds like we're not at a point yet where we're starting to consider other risks, environmental risks, climate risks. We're talking about financial risks and, health and life safety. It's
Exactly.
just be nice to
Putting
hear
down
that.
the fires for now. We are very reactive.
Yeah, it's when I hear about considerations for water systems out to Hood Point, potential health safety risks, the works yard and that cost and how that's prioritized. And
Mhm.
also thinking about the multi-use path and how it alleviates potential safety risks with increased cyclists on the road.
Mhm.
So I'd be curious, and it'd just be nice to know that we're putting some thought into which projects are prioritized and why, taking a look at the overall picture, but also great to hear that if funding is available, we're obviously going for that too. So,
Exactly.
thanks for your answers. Appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. I'd like to move us along quickly over the next pieces, since I'd like to get us into close, as there's, I think, a substantial discussion to get into there. So we'll move on to 4.2. Patrick, maybe I'd ask just to focus on the first two pages. I think, in relation to, the operational updates, we've got some pictures there of some Cove Bay pieces, which I think are one worth talking about for this committee. But, I know that there's going to be public watching this either now or some point down the road that are looking on some Cove Bay updates. So I think having a visual on that, we can leave the rest just to possibly receive, unless there's anything big that you want to get into. And then the next item, I think we've covered most of those pieces in the. So let me scroll back up here. In the traffic light matrix that we've got, so we can probably just receive that. So maybe it's just some top level Cove Bay explanations on the pictures that you got in 4.2. I'll look to receive 4.3, and then we'll move on from there if that works.
Sure, that's fine. I'll just quickly share my screen again. So I was wondering about including pictures about relating to Cove Bay in the open session, but I think it is important to mention that as an operational update, our operations staff spend a lot of time dealing with these issues. When Purific sends somebody out, it's usually someone named Cam who's familiar with the mechanics of some of the equipment but doesn't really know the programming. We have our operator Dewey on the on text and on the phone all the time with their chief technology officer, trying to troubleshoot issues. The first two pictures here, I think I mentioned earlier that one of the two modules is still producing, is not passing the direct integrity test, and has higher turbidity than it should. The ceramics were completely replaced. They were delivered, and when they replace the ceramics, again, it's, Cam comes out, but then there's 3 of our staff are working with them for 2 days to get them switched out. There's a couple there that you can see visible quality concerns. They're bubbling, and there's striations. These were determined to be leaking from a previous replacement. They did replace all the ceramics in Module B, and we're still seeing some of these water quality issues. The latest feedback we've gotten from Purifics is that there may be some problem with the actual machining of the steel housing itself, where these filter tubes slide into, and they've suggested that we send it back to their factory and they'll have a look at it. I should point out that doesn't give us any guarantee that, if we go ahead and do that at, great effort and expense, that it will actually resolve the issue. That's just their best suggestion at this point.
Right. And just to jump in there, Patrick, this is for clarity. This is after we've already sent it back at our expense to have it factory reset to reinstall it back in the facility. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've been down that road with them before. And then, this is just the HMI screen on the PLC for the cuff, that the filtration system, that it has linked to a number of different parameters that can be tracked over time. And our operator has been working with Purific's Chief Technology Officer to try and figure out how to make this thing work better. And Sarah mentioned that it's not producing the rated capacity. He's currently only able to get about a third of the rated capacity out of the system, and working to adjust whatever parameters he can to improve that. And that may have to do with the filter cleaning process, or with the flow rates, or the connection to the link to the dewars, the dewatering system. We're running out of ideas, to be honest.
Right.
This is also the another issue that we've been having. The dewars, which extracts the sediment from the water, is not. It has to be stirred up on a regular basis. It's supposed to run automatically. It doesn't actually pick up the sediment properly unless Dewey actively stirs it regularly. It looks like some of the sediment is settling out and is not getting picked up by the vacuum plates of the dewars. Well, those were the Cove Bay photos. Did you want me to leave the rest of them?
Yeah, I think let's leave the rest. Although just a comment on two pieces. So the first being the Cove Bay piece. So I think clearly the message out of this meeting is that there are some significant equipment concerns, and continue to be some significant equipment concerns, particularly from the supplier. I'm hearing that we've done everything operationally possible to bend over backwards to get this piece to work. So there's going to be decisions to be made, and I think we can leave it at that. In terms of the rest of the updates, though, I did just want to provide some appreciation for these photos, and both in your presentation, Patrick, as well as the scope of work that we see in these photos. I think this is a great update, and it's well calibrated to this committee, as well as having visuals that we can send back out into the community, given even what we saw in the budget feedback we received on Monday, where folks are placing a high importance on infrastructure. They're placing a high importance on renewal, and we're seeing those investments literally go into the ground and be worked on by our staff here is fantastic. So thank you for these updates. Unless there's any objection, we'll receive. Sorry, I need to scroll back up to my agenda here. We'll receive the reports in 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. Not seeing any, so we will consider those received by unanimous consent. Moving on to 5.1, provided there for information in 5.1 was the award of contract for the Snug Cove Sewer Inflow and Infiltration Reduction Program. I know we've talked about this significantly at previous committee meetings. I don't know if we need an overview of the report, but maybe if there's any questions that are arising from the committee on this, the award of contract and the scope of work here, our manager of infrastructure is here to take them. Over to you, Don. You are on mute, however.
Okay, got it. I saw that there were a couple of questions I had when I read the documentation, and I saw that they were also questioned by some of the proponents in terms of staff assistance, what that connotated, and timing and schedule and that sort of thing. So that looked like it all got buttoned down in the final. So we actually have a signed contract now with it's
With
is it
Lida.
Kerwood Lydell, right?
Yes.
And were they not involved at some point directly or indirectly with assessing the sewage treatment plant?
Yes. Yes, they
Okay.
were.
Okay. All right. That's good. I'll hold my peace. Thank you.
No
Okay.
problem.
Not seeing any further questions, unless there's any objection, we'll receive that by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, that is received. Moving on to, can someone, we've got a recommendation to move to a closed meeting. Can someone move that, please?
You can move it.
Moved by Councillor Wake, seconded by Mr. Florendo. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Okay. Information items will be received by unanimous consent. Any questions for question period, Steph? Not seeing any. We've got our next meeting there, and I'll look for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Saunders.
Second.
By Don. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Bye.
Aye.